Guys, this is Lala Legacy and welcome back to another episode of Symphonic Rain. So before we jump in, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button because that would mean the whole world to me. And after the video, if you liked it, hit that like button too. Alright, let's get into this. Looking at her from this angle, I noticed Lisa really had a petite build. What seemed like a regular sandwich in my own hands looked enormous in Lisa's. She was silent from beginning to end, fully concentrated on the task of eating. She looked like some kind of small animal. As I thought that, Lisa noticed me staring at her and shot an upward glance in my direction. Is something wrong? Nothing, just wondering how you like the sandwich. It's good. I missed eating this. You missed it? Well, in the past, I used to eat this a lot. Not much anymore lately. Really? The combination of tomato and cheese was a staple in this country. Filling your sandwich with it for breakfast or lunch was hardly a delicacy. It was pretty much standard fare. Well, if Lisa didn't eat breakfast often, I could imagine why she hadn't eaten one recently. But I'm glad you like it. Yes. After her brief reply, Lisa shifted her attention to the sandwich once more. She had a small mouth, so a proportional amount went in with each bite. Despite being preoccupied with observing Lisa, by the time I had finished my second sandwich, she had only just finished her first. Want another one? There are still 3 left. Too much for myself. If possible, I'd like to return the basket in an empty state. I did consider leaving something behind for the lady, but what was left of it now wouldn't be sufficient for her. She'd probably prefer that I eat it completely. Okay. Then I'll have one more. Go ahead. I inclined the basket toward Lisa, which prompted her to come shuffling this way, remove one sandwich, and return to her former position. She then began eating with undivided attention once again. I took out my third sandwich and went back to watching Lisa. I'd considered asking her to come sit next to me again, but this kind of distance might have been appropriate for us right now. I hadn't gotten close enough to her to be able to consider her a candidate partner yet. It wasn't really a problem to ask someone like Fal, who was a senior herself, and was facing the same problem as me. But Lisa was only a freshman. She didn't have any particular gain from partnering with me. Besides, I was having fun just performing ensembles with her like this, so that alone should justify my being here. It seemed it was taking forever for the sandwich to vanish from Lisa's hands. What is it? Sorry, it's nothing. Go ahead, eat up. Yes. Her mouth was still moving rhythmically. Somehow, I just couldn't shake off this mental image of an animal being fed. She seemed akin to a cat, always overseeing the situation from a distance, and when you intruded upon a certain proximity, she would scamper away. The sight was endearing. It was so much so that it made me lose my sense of time as I stared at her. It was delicious. Yes, it really was. Perhaps this was a bit too much for her small build. I'm full. I see. But you should eat properly, especially considering how slim you are. Sure enough, her cheeks and such were plump and girlish, but her neck and wrists peeking out from under her uniform were just the opposite. I'm slim? Yeah. Lisa cast her eyes downward as if checking over her own body, then murmured, Senpai, do you prefer girls that are not slim? Huh? No, never mind. Lisa retracted her question hastily and covered her chest with both hands as if she were trying to hide it from me. If she hadn't, I might not have understood her intent, but now I could somewhat see what she was trying to say. No, I didn't. I mean... Like I said, never mind. But, well, being able to have a conversation like this might have been an indication we'd gotten a little closer. Good performance. Yeah. We performed another ensemble after we finished eating. I got more skilled at the piece, and thought it was turning out quite nicely. Well, we played together for so long, so of course our performance improved. Yes, no, I think the credit is due to your foretell. It seemed Lise still lacked faith in her own capabilities, although I'd like to believe that initial nod of agreement had expressed her true feelings. It didn't make sense for her to deny her talents. No, that's not true. I'm sure you do great, even in front of a crowd. Oh no! A hint of fear flashed across her face. Well, she did say she didn't like crowds. Was what I just brought up related? Anyway, you should really have more self-confidence. Well, let's go home. I doubt an instructor would ever pass by here, but we'd be in a pinch if they closed the front gate. Yes. I spoke with artificial cheerfulness to avoid putting her on the spot any further. While the reason remained unknown, it was clear enough that she had no confidence in her singing. Was that why she was practicing here all by herself? Maybe she disliked crowds because she didn't want others to hear her sing. Well, I'm ready to go. Let's head out. Yes. Lise didn't have anything to clean up, so once I finished putting my foretell in its case, we simultaneously walked out the door. I'm going to return this first. Oh, okay. Want to tag along? I couldn't say it. After all, it was already pretty late, but more importantly, I didn't think Lise felt comfortable enough around me yet to want to walk home together. All we did was practice together at some old school building. Today was the first time we even properly performed an ensemble. See you later. Yes, goodbye. With that said, Lise sped out of the building. She turned around once halfway through the corridor and bowed to me. When I reacted to that by waving my hand, she smiled at me, something I had rarely seen her do. As I returned the empty basket to the lady, she laughed in satisfaction. You ate well, making that much really paid off. Thank you very much. I wanted to leave some for you, but they were just too delicious. You're a boy after all, that was about the right amount for you. The lady laughed heartily and went back inside. Thank you very much for the meal. She might have been out of earshot, but I expressed my gratitude nonetheless. I went home immediately afterward. I'm home. Oh, welcome home! Despite it being a day off, a towel was left at the front door. Thanks for the towel. I dried my hair and went inside. You're pretty late, and you're even wearing your uniform. Don't tell me you went to school. Yeah, I felt like practicing for a bit. That's unusual. I guess. But who did you practice with? Oh, with Lise. Now that you mention it, you practiced with her a few times last week, but I never expected you to agree to meet up on a day off. Actually, we never agreed to meet. I told Forney of today's events, like how we'd performed our ensemble and ate sandwiches together. Forney laughed, saying these things didn't suit me. I realized that. But I just couldn't stop thinking about her. Deep down, I witnessed a semblance to Ari. After spending lunchtime and leisure, I shouldered my foretell and went out. Disregarding the usual rain, I hurried towards Torta's house. The district with the house I was headed for was situated right next to the student apartments. There were many very old solitary houses in this area, and Nina's house, which she bought secondhand when she moved here, was no exception. It was surprisingly close to my apartment, so it only took about 5 minutes by foot. I walked toward a relatively large building at the other end of the narrow alley. I'm here! Come in! Torta was all smiles as she greeted me at the entrance. Thank you for having me. I set foot into a room that gave off a familiar scent. Every time I entered this household, I was flooded with a feeling of nostalgia. Is that you, Chris? The sound of a creaking chair could be heard as Nina spoke to me. Yes, it has been quite a while. Nina faced me while rocking slowly in a bent wood chair. Come closer. Okay. I did as I was told, and grasped the deeply wrinkled hand laying dormant on the armrest. You've gotten big. It has only been half a year since then, Mrs. Fine. Or Fine or Fine? I don't know. I think it's Fine. I do not grow that fast. There you go, acting all mature again. She told me with a gentle voice and looked me in the eye. Or rather, she attempted to look me in the eye. Her narrow, barely opened irises were clouded, and she was almost unable to see anything nowadays. That's right! It really doesn't suit him! A very long time ago I had called her Granny, just as Torta still did. Nina talked about it as though that was only yesterday. Being treated like that wasn't unpleasant at all, but being treated like a child was starting to feel a little awkward now that I was at an age where I was expected to show courtesy towards seniors. In any case, it has been a long time. That is quite all right. Since you brought your foretell, I presume you shall be performing for me, no? If my abilities will suffice, I am sure you have improved over time. I cannot guarantee that. You said the same thing last time. You should have more confidence in your capabilities. Impossible! He's been like this forever. He isn't going to change that easily. Torta, that was uncalled for. I'm complimenting you. Well, thanks. You never change. Just like I said, right? You too, Torta. You always seem to lash out at him like that. Granny! So, what will you perform for me today? I could perform any piece I have sufficiently practiced, I answered, then began preparing my foretell. Although I only came a few times a year, visiting Nina's house to perform for her had become somewhat of a customary routine. Nina often went to recitals like the ones held in the concert hall, so it was a little embarrassing for us students to perform for her. But Nina always looked forward to these visits. So, besides simply recalling the past, I played the foretell whenever I dropped by. Then, how about that piece you played before? Oh, what was it called again? The one he played before? That's not enough information. Your definition of before could very well mean many years ago. In that case, how about playing all the pieces we've ever played here? You're unusually diligent. I'm impressed that you didn't start complaining. I'm always serious. That's right, Chris is always serious. Huh? No, sorry, I lied. I had expected Torta's complaints, but having it affirmed like that made me feel embarrassed, or rather ashamed. As long as you shall perform for me, I do not mind what you play. If you were going to apologize, you shouldn't have said it to begin with. It's all because your reaction was too slow. Don't pin the blame on someone else! Torta struck my side with her elbow, and then began her singing preparations. Anyway, I've finished some basic vocal exercises, so I'm ready when you are. I'm almost done as well. Nina slowly entrusted her body to the chair, making herself comfortable for the upcoming performance. Somehow, even that minor gesture aroused nostalgia within me. Feeling slightly remorseful for not visiting in such a long time, I pledged myself to perform more earnestly than ever today. For starters, I lightly traced my finger along the keyboard and struck a note. The crystalline sound of my foretel reverberated through the room, prompting Nina to turn slightly toward me. The house itself was large, and in this area there was no one who would regard a musical performance as an annoyance. I slightly adjusted my position to make sure Nina would be able to hear it well, then turned to face Torta. Excluding practice for the graduation recital, without opportunities like these, I would almost never get to play together with her. So I was a little bit nervous. Anytime you're ready. Okay, just start with some piece I know well. Got it. Exhaling deeply, I looked Torta straight in the eye. We didn't need any words to signal the start. I inhaled some air to synchronize with her respiration, then gently started playing my keyboard. First, we played some famous pieces we had learned after coming to the Institute. Nina sat motionlessly as though she had fallen asleep, simply letting her body be overtaken by the waves of sound. But after less than an hour, our repertoire was exhausted, and we had to resort to playing pieces we picked up here and there, and pieces we learned when we were small. Even so, as long as Torta knew those songs, there wasn't much of a problem. But at times, I would start a piece she didn't know the lyrics to, and continued playing without breaking off, provoking a laugh from Nina. And afterward, Torta would get mad at me. But those moments were amusing in their own right, or in their own way, and I felt as though it were the first time I had genuinely enjoyed a performance in quite a while. The time the three of us spent relaxing after dinner had gone by in the blink of an eye. As for what we talked about, it was naturally about all of my endeavors. Nina was inquisitive about the smallest of things that even Torta didn't know of, and before I noticed, I had been absorbed in the conversation until late at night. It's getting a little late. I'd better go home soon. Chris, thank you for coming today. Nah, I'm sorry for not coming more often. Without realizing it, I had relaxed my manner of speech as well. I always tried to be very polite every time I came here, but then inevitably messed up when it was about time to go home. Don't force yourself, just come whenever you feel like it. I will, I answered honestly. Nina gently nodded, then grasped my hand one final time. If she had told me to come again soon, I would probably have pledged to do so with a smile on my face. But since the relationship between Torta and I was a bit complicated right now, I found myself unable to propose this myself. See you tomorrow! At the front door, Torta continued to me in a whisper, so only I could hear it. Thanks for today. Yeah, see you tomorrow. After one last healthy intake of the nostalgic air in the house, I went outside. The incessant rain felt cold to the touch, so I put my coat back on tightly, then hurried along the road home. You're late! I'm home. Sorry I'm late. What about the reply to Ari? Will you make it in time? You're worried about the ensemble, not the letter, aren't you? Sorry, but I'll have to pass today. I'm exhausted. What are you talking about? Just hurry up and write your reply, then... Taking tomorrow into consideration, I'll have my hands full just writing the letter. You really can't? We'll have to do it twice as long next time, okay? And I waited for so long! Like I said, I'm really sorry about that. Mimi! There was nothing I could do about it. Besides, it wasn't like it had to be on a Sunday. I could perform with her for a bit tomorrow as well. Sorry, Forney. I didn't know if she was still listening, but I told her so in a tiny voice, then decided to forget about the matter for the time being. Well then, although I had been deep in talk at Torta's place, I had eaten until my belly was full, and now I had to make effort not to fall asleep on the spot. Looking at the pretty writing of the letter, a sense of relief overcame me, and I became sleepy once again. To make myself a bit more comfortable, I lay down on my bed before reading the letter. Dear Chris, is it still raining over there? The rain that was falling last week quickly ended, and now the skies are completely translucent again. Sometimes I wonder how it feels to live with rain eternally falling down from the sky. If it were possible for you to share some of your weather with me, I would gladly accept. I can already picture your face in my mind, telling me I'm just being silly. But those are my honest feelings. How is the search for your graduation partner coming along? I suppose I ended up on this subject again, but right now, that is what's most important, so forgive me. It isn't really about Torta or whomever you find to be your partner, but about playing well with at this important event that will influence your graduation. I hope you will find a nice person and practice well. I will feel bad if that were all I was going to write you about, so I will write a bit about myself now. I got employed at this bakery at around the same time you and Torta entered the institute, so I have been here for over 2.5 years. Although I have been reporting minute details to you, I have not told you officially, I suppose. Anyway, by now I am allowed to do all the baking from start to end by myself. I am incredibly busy every day, but I believe I have perfected it to the point just like you have your music. I hope I will be able to let you taste my delicious bread sometime. I am looking forward to that day. Arietta. Bread made by Arietta, huh? Since I was full, I didn't really want to think about food, but I felt something like that could still manage to fit. Forney. I left the letter next to my pillow and muttered, "Wake me up a little earlier tomorrow. I can't write a reply anymore." Burying my face in my pillow, the border of the dream world was already in sight. Good night. Wake up! I had a feeling someone was yelling in my ear, telling me to wake up. It seemed that the remainder of my fatigue hadn't dissolved quite yet. I didn't want to open my eyes, much less get up, as I still felt sluggish. Jeez, you were the one who said I had to wake you up! Ugh. As I slowly opened my eyes, a miffed-looking Forney standing by my bedside came into view. Morning. Is it that late already? I flitted my eyes to the clock behind the angry sprite. It's only barely past 9. I could sleep for 30 more minutes. But you told me to! She pulled my ear with all of her might. Of course, she had the strength of a little fairy. I didn't feel it much. Wake up! I get it. Don't shout in my ear like that. You haven't written your reply to Ari yet, have you? Come to think of it, I stayed at Nina's place until late yesterday, and fell asleep right after reading the letter. Having suddenly recalled everything, I scanned my bedside, but the letter I was sure I had left there was gone. If you're looking for the letter, I left it on your desk to make sure you wouldn't crumple it. Oh, thanks. Come on! Get up, write your letter, and practice your butt off today. Now, who taught you to speak like that? Actually, she'd been that way since I first met her. What she said seemed like something Torta would say. Oh well, anyway, thanks for waking me up. Geez, you really can't do anything without me. Nothing? Nothing! I see. I was thinking about doing an ensemble with you when I got back, but somehow I really don't feel like it anymore. Hey, you're lying! Oh, I don't mind if you think I'm lying. It was just a thought in the first place, and now I don't feel like doing it anymore. Huh? I had expected her to apologize and be done with it. What are you being stubborn about? I'm not being stubborn! I think such a reply is proof in itself you're being stubborn. Had I been teasing her too much since last night? I was starting to feel a bit sorry for her, so I decided to give up. Never mind, I'm sorry. Heh! Forney seemed to be quite upset, but that was rather cute in its own way. As I pondered mean things like leaving her in her angered state for a while longer, I decided to focus on my primary objective for now, my reply to Ari. When I got up and walked to my desk, I heard Forney make a tiny sound behind me. What? Nothing! What? Spit it out! I'm telling you, it's nothing! Forney didn't want to say it, but I understood what she wanted. She wanted me to carry her to her favorite seat in front of the window. Come on. I grabbed her aside with my thumb and index finger and popped her down on the window frame. Hey! This was what you wanted, right? Well, yeah. Listen, I apologize for last night and for teasing you just now. But you know, I don't think anyone could do everything themselves. Sure, if you weren't there to wake me up, I would likely oversleep a lot. But without my help, you wouldn't be able to reach high places, would you? I guess. That's why it's wrong for you to say that. Above all, it takes two to perform an ensemble. All right, I get it. Thanks, then I guess I'll go write my letter now. Forney shifted her gaze to the outside world and started humming, something she often did when in a good mood. Feeling relieved, I pulled a clean sheet of paper from my drawer and sat down behind my desk. Thankfully, it looked like Ari was doing just fine on her end. In her early letters, she often wrote that she was having difficulties. I often grumbled that I couldn't get used to living here at the Institute as well, but I somehow managed to hold up until now. I could confidently say that was the result of being supported by the people around me, like Forney, Torta, Asino, and Miss Cordell. Ari had to have people like that as well. Thinking about her friends, who didn't appear much in her letters, I started writing my reply. Are you done? It's about time for you to leave, Forney told me after glancing at the clock, back in high spirits once more. Don't worry, I'm done. I'll be right on time if I leave now. Thanks for waking me up. And whatever would you do without me? She had slightly altered her choice of words. I had to agree with her this time. You're right, I answered jovially, and began preparing to leave. I'm off. Be careful! You'll be back early today, right? Probably, but even if I'm not, I will keep my promise. Okay, got it! I finished my usual morning session and spent time with Torta in the cafeteria. Well then, what shall I do now? We are gonna go to the old school building. Without much to do, I decided to head for the old school building, until Torta stopped me in my tracks. Chris, can I talk to you for a second? Huh? Sure, what's up? There's something that's been bothering me. Do you have time to talk? Sure. Lise wouldn't be there if I went immediately anyway, so it didn't matter if I spent time talking with Torta. I sat back down in my chair and waited for her to speak. Have you been practicing properly lately? Yeah, I have. Although it didn't have much to do with the graduation recital, I have been practicing. I see. It's just that I didn't see you in the practice rooms much last week. I guess. Even so, I've been practicing properly. Never mind then. But with who? With a freshman vocalist girl. I couldn't exactly hide it from her. After all, although this was a very big if, Lise were to become my partner for graduation, it might have to hurt her feelings. How did you meet a girl like that? By chance. But a freshman, huh? Well, what kind of girl is she? A quiet one? Is she a good singer? I believe so. You're not being very clear. Oh well, introduce her to me sometime. Sure, if the opportunity arises. Despite the reluctant answer, having the two meet might be in Lise's best interest. Torta was also in the vocal department, so if her abilities were to be acknowledged by someone 2 years her senior, she might gain some self-confidence. Oh, wait, how about today? Huh? Today? We didn't agree to meet, so I'm not sure if she'll be there or not, but... I don't mind meeting her, but what about her? I wonder. She's a little shy, but she might open up a little to a senior of her own department. You're not putting up much resistance, are you? Resistance? In my head, I kinda had an image of you secretly going out to meet this cute freshman behind my back. What kind of imagination do you have? Anyway, she still has class right now, so we'll have to wait one way or another. I see. Then let's stay here for a while. Okay, I'll buy you something to drink. Oh, cicolata, please. I know. Time passed by in a flash as Torta and I exchanged small talk. The chime of the bell resounded, and with that, the compulsory classes of the freshmen and juniors were over. Well then, let's go. Okay. Torta downed the cicolata she had been slowly sipping away at in one gulp. It already solidified, hadn't it? Yeah, it tastes great even when it's cold. Torta jovially gave me an unexpected answer, then stood up with vigor. Let's go! After we left the building, I spotted Lise on the road leading to the old school building. That might be her. Huh? But where is she going? The old school building. Let's dash to catch up with her. Oh, okay. Hey, Lise! I said and patted her on the shoulder. As I waited for Lise to turn around, for some reason, she tried to run off without even looking behind. Huh? Before I realized, I had gripped her hand. But please let me go! Sorry! I hastily released her hand, upon which Lise finally faced me, shock written all over her face. Senpai! I'm sorry. When you suddenly tried to run off, my hand somehow moved on its own. No, I'm sorry, I didn't realize it was you. We both apologized to each other, but something else bothered me. If it hadn't been me, would she have run away? Why would she do something like that? Did she have acquaintances who would pull pranks like that? Watching Lise apologizing profusely, I couldn't find it in me to ask her. It's okay now. Anyway, I brought with me a friend of mine. I introduced Torta, who was standing behind me, looking somewhat perplexed at the scene that had just unfolded before her. Hello, I'm Tortanita, a senior vocalist. I'm a friend of Chris. Lise froze up before Torta had even finished her introduction, and shrank back as though to conceal herself behind me. What's wrong? Sorry. I said this to the both of them, then carefully mouthed something to Torta so only she would understand. I told you before she was shy, didn't I? Torta understood and managed to nod amidst her bewilderment. Sorry for coming here without notice. I was only walking with him until this point. I'll be going now. Sorry, Lise said weakly, tightly gripping the hem of my jacket. Was she like this when she first met me as well? It seemed to me it was worse this time, but that might have been because I'd been spending a lot of time with her lately. Anyway, I'm your senior, so if you need advice, feel free to ask, Torta said cheerfully, then made motions with her lips so only I would understand. She resembles her. Anyway, good luck with practice. It might be rough being Chris's partner, but at least his ability at playing the foretell is no joke. That at least was uncalled for. That was all I managed to answer. As I watched Torta's figure retreat into the distance as though nothing had happened, I couldn't help but ponder the significance of her words. Sure, Lise might resemble Ari, but that would be the Ari at her worst moments. Sorry. Since Torta is your senior, I just figured you might have wanted to talk to her. I'm sorry. For what? I don't think Torta minded. Anyway, let's hurry to the music room. Yes. Even after arriving at the music room, Lise's demeanor hadn't changed for the better. Really, don't worry about it. It was my fault for bringing her along without asking you. That's not true. Come on, let's have an ensemble. Even if I kept talking to her, I didn't think I'd be able to improve the situation. I promptly set up my foretell and played some preliminary notes. Although I didn't exactly expect her to start singing with a smile on her face now, Lise was still watching me with the same expression as before. What's wrong? That bit about being your partner. Ah, I suppose a freshman wouldn't know about that. 3 months from now, a graduation examination will be held. For me, that means I have to perform an ensemble with a vocalist. But, of course, Torta just misunderstood. Don't worry about it. Since I'm supposed to find a partner soon, Torta mistakenly assumed you were her. Can't blame her for that, I guess. Then, why are you wasting your time practicing with me? It was a surprisingly direct question coming from Lise. She might have been right, but the wasting your time part bothered me a little. I just wanted to perform an ensemble with you. That was probably a lie. However, in the same breath, I bended it into the truth. Since we only did the ensemble so far, I hadn't told you yet, but I was thinking of asking you eventually. Of course, you don't have to accept if you don't want to, only if you feel like it. This was probably far too sudden for the intensely timid girl. Moreover, it was something that I had thought up on the spot. I cheerfully brought up something else to change the subject. Anyway, right now I just immensely enjoy performing with you, so let's stop thinking about it and just play, okay? You're not enjoying it? No, that's not it. So you don't mind? No. Thanks. I'm all set. What about you? Me too. I already sang during class. Great, then let's begin right away. Yes. In the beginning, Lise's face was as sullen as it was before, but after performing for about an hour, it seemed her mood gradually began to lighten. Right now, she was singing blissfully. Lise must really love to sing. I felt an opportunity was needed for the girl to exhibit her talents to an audience. I wasn't saying it had to be the graduation recital. Anywhere was fine. There just had to be some people willing to listen to her and to acknowledge her abilities. And really, with a performance like this, I could state without a doubt in my mind that the vast majority would love it. Great job. Yes. Lise nodded somewhat bashfully at the end of her elated singing session. About today. It was fun, wasn't it? Want to play again sometime? Yes, of course. But that's not what I meant. We'll talk about it tomorrow. Huh? Want to meet again tomorrow? Jesus. Well, I don't mind. Also, don't mind the background noise. It's my roommate. Then will you come to the cafeteria after class? That's a little... I don't mean to have lunch or anything. Just drop by. Okay. Thanks. Let's go home. Yes. Lise uttered, looking somewhat confused, and began packing up. An extreme case of stage fright? While that might have been the case, it seemed necessary for her to sing in front of a crowd. Even if she messed up, she could still start over until she could just start over until she succeeded. She was only a freshman, so she still had more than 2 years ahead of her. But if she kept cooping herself up in this place, she would always remain like this. I wasn't terribly confident I could help her get over it. But if there was anything I could do, then it would be to provide her an audience to sing for. It didn't have to be tomorrow. It could be after she became a junior and met some other nice foretellist. In any case, I wanted her to know that there was a way to get over this. Anyway, I'm going straight home. Me too. Then shall we walk together as far as we can? Yes. The atmosphere that had made it difficult to ask her before was gone. Feeling relieved at being able to walk through the streets together, the two of us left campus. We walked through the main street, exchanging but a few words. It wasn't just Lise who was worried about tomorrow. I couldn't keep it off my mind either. Carefully picking subjects to avoid touching on that matter, we continued having everyday conversation. I'll be turning the corner here. I stopped at an intersection with the road leading to the narrow alleys of the old town. I'm going straight ahead. I see. Then this is where we say goodbye. Yes. Will you come practice tomorrow? Yes. Lise answered firmly. After watching her retreating figure disappear in the direction of the new town, I went home. If possible, I wanted to bring tomorrow's ensemble to a success in front of an audience. Contrary to what I'd felt before, this was what I wanted right now. You seem awfully gleeful. Did something happen? Nothing out of the ordinary. Sure, I had fun with my ensemble with Lise, but did my face really betray that fact? Lise wouldn't accept if I asked her to be my partner right now, so I knew there was better ways to spend my time. Huh. She was eyeing me suspiciously. Forney always encouraged me to partner with Torta, so she was rather uptight about the situation. Although naturally, I knew she would let me decide for myself in the end. I performed an ensemble with Lise again today, but it's not like I haven't began thinking about the graduation recital. So after a round of careful pondering, what solution might you have to offer, good sir? I'll, cross that bridge when I get there. I didn't mean to make light of it, but I was more concerned about Lise right now. Tomorrow's ensemble would no doubt have a positive effect on her. With that in mind, I didn't even care anymore that I didn't get to ask Lise to be my partner. Well, whatever. Forney erased herself from my vision, even though it looked like she still had something to add. I didn't think I could have given her a more satisfactory explanation anyways. And above all, it didn't look like I could beat the drowsiness my complacency had given rise to. Alright, December 13th. I'm leaving now. Okay, see you later. Torta stood up from her seat and left. She hadn't touched on what happened yesterday at all. I figured she decided to stay quiet until I brought it up. Torta was kinda like that. She had the same qualities as Ari. I glanced at the clock and decided to wait here until LISE'S classes were over. I had enough time to visit a practice room and come back, but I just wasn't in the mood. I'd already touched my foretell during Miss Cordell's lessons, so there wasn't much need to, sorry. I had the piece in my head already, so I just had to focus on the actual performance. But that is all the time that I have for this episode, guys, so if you liked it, hit that like button down below and don't forget to subscribe. I love you guys so much, and I will see you next time. Bye!